Hello. Today I'm going to present to you my behavior management project. The purpose of this project was to collect baseline data on behaviors of a student, develop an intervention, and collect data to test the effectiveness of the intervention. Let's begin by looking at a brief summary of who the student is. JD is an eighth grader, African American male at Columbus, Iowa, a separate facility within the Columbus City Schools for students with identified emotional and behavioral difficulties. JD struggles with forming positive relationships with his peers, staying in his assigned area, and completing his class work. JD has at some point identified as demonstrating the behavior patterns associated with ADHD and CD, which is conduct disorder. JD has experienced traumatic experiences throughout his entire life. He has an unstable home environment, switching from family members and group homes throughout his entire life. Now we will take a look at the components of the target behavior I developed. I collected the following data over a 2 week time period. Given an 8 period day, JD is on task 59% of the time across all academic classes. He is remaining in the classroom 45% of the time. He is remaining in his assigned area of the classroom 40% of the time. JD has completed 30% of his classwork as measured by the teacher's grade report. Typical seventh graders remain in their assigned areas in their assigned classroom, demonstrate on-task behavior 90% of the time, and complete 90% of the classwork. Using his present level of performance, I developed the following target behaviors. Given an 8 period day, JD will remain in his assigned area with on-task behavior and completing his classwork 85% of the time for 3 out of 4 weeks as measured by the daily behavior report. It is important for JD to master these behaviors because they can be transferred to any public setting, including a workplace, or where he will be required to complete tasks and remain in a specific area in order to get the job done. Working towards these behaviors also helps JD develop a great sense of control and success in the school environment. As a result of the structure and clear expectations, here's a breakdown of some of the behaviors in my class. You would notice the blue line is for staying in his assigned area, and the orange line is for on-task behavior. You will notice that his highest point were fourth and seventh period. Fourth period is in the class where JD likes the teacher, and seventh period is lunch. Basically where there's no little demands were in place. Based on data I collected, I created an intervention to address his on-task behavior and work completion. The intervention I created for JD is a self-monitoring checklist. JD will use a self-monitoring checklist where he will check his behavior at the end of each class. The teacher will briefly meet with JD to discuss honesty towards his ratings. JD has the opportunity to earn a reward at the end of each class period and at the end of each day. His schedule of enforcements is so frequent because of the severity of his behaviors. He needs frequent reinforcers in order to make a connection between reinforcer and his behavior. If he does not earn a reinforcer for the day, he has the opportunity to earn a reinforcer at the end of the day. Self-monitoring equips the child with developing their own awareness and coping mechanisms to control their behaviors rather than being told what to do. The student has more ownership of their choices and is fully engaged with the data because they are the ones collecting them. According to the Vanderbilt University, students with emotional and behavior disorders and or ADHD have shown improvements in specific target skills when using the appropriate the appropriate approach, self-monitoring. According to the results, JD improved in areas after the intervention was put in place. He looked forward to filling in his charts each day, only tearing up one daily checklist because he feel like the points that he got he didn't deserve. I realized that um, it's much more responsible to positive feedback and redirection than negative redirection. To conclude, this project was very informative. I learned that data driven drives everything, and that everything needs to be measurable. The intervention I did with JD was successful, which I felt really good. We did not have much time to fade reinforcers to generalize the behavior because he engaged in some serious behaviors in the home. So he was placed in a hospital setting. This shows me the complexity of working with these students and preserving through a hard times, just as our students do. I hope you learned something from this presentation. Here's the reference. I use this project. Have a great day.